Good job, Paige. Good job, Paige. Hi everyone. I am Kristen. I'm an alcoholic. Some of you, I don't know if everyone was here last week. I am covering for H for last Friday and this Friday. So thank you for those that came back. I'm really excited about today. Yeah, we're gonna dig into step three. We read the beginning of how it works last week and really kind of dug into the reading that most of us kind of try and tune out to at the beginning of that's read at the beginning of meetings, the how it works part. But this is how it works, right? Yeah, so we read up to step 12. So we're on page 60. And then we just read through the list of the 12 steps. And so I think we can just jump in here. So many of us exclaimed, "What in order? I can't go through with it." Do not. So, and we're of course talking about, yeah, like doing all of the 12 steps like that. I remember, like, some of my first meetings looking at those and just being like, that's yeah, I don't know if I can gonna do the 4 or the 5. Maybe I can do some of these, but like, at the beginning, do not be discouraged, right? No one among us has been able to maintain anything like perfect adherence to these principles. No, like, we're not going to be perfect, right? Like we're not saints. We are, the point is that we are willing to grow along spiritual lines. And that, I think, is key, right? That's the whole purpose of the 12 steps, is to help us grow in understanding and get that spiritual experience, right? So it's not about us, we're fallible human beings. We're going to make mistakes. We're going, and those are going to be used as opportunities to help someone else. Like inevitably, but we need to be willing to grow along spiritual lines. And I just want to emphasize this again and again: willing to grow along spiritual lines. So we have to keep up that willingness, right? And it says the principles we have set down are guides to progress. um, we claim spiritual progress rather than spiritual perfection. When we talk about the word progress, like progress, we're talking about, like, progress means moving forward. It doesn't talk about like we just get there and we maintain the status quo, right? Like, I know that I've heard some people talk about 10, 11, and 12 as like the maintenance steps, but really, like, these are the growth steps. We need to continually progress. We want to continually grow. So right now, so this spiritual progress, when we talk about growing spiritually, it's a continuously moving forward. We don't stand still. Okay, because once we start standing still, we're resting on our laurels. And I know from my experience, because I've been there, is, like, it just, this is where we drink when I know, even earlier when we talked about our friend that went to go, the milk and whiskey guy, right? At the beginning of that story, it talks about, like, he did all these things, but he failed to enlarge his spiritual life, right? We're given these kind of warnings and these gleamings of, like, this spiritual part is really big here. And in steps 1 and 2, we're really talking about, like, the alcoholism and the allergy of the body, the obsession of the mind. And now we're really starting to talk about the spiritual aspect of this. So our description of the alcoholic, the chapter to the agnostic, and our personal adventures before and after make clear 3 pertinent ideas. Okay, so what's in this book? It makes clear 3 things. A, that we were alcoholic and could not manage our own lives. This is the step 1 proposition. This is our step 1 idea, right? Like, we're alcoholic and we can't manage our own lives. We cannot control the amount we take, and when we want to stop, we cannot. right? That B, probably no human power could have relieved our alcoholism. No, like that is huge. Therapists can't help, not even my sponsor can relieve my alcoholism, and that's the important thing too. I heard a speaker say we need, when a newcomer comes in, the importance of getting them through these steps quickly is because we want them to become God reliant, not meeting reliant. And I was like, yeah, right. Like that's it. Like, because when we're meeting reliant, we're relying on human power to relieve our alcoholism. Meetings are a part of the AA, but ultimately it's C. God could and would if he were sought. And remember, it's up to us to do the seeking, right? And that's the second step proposition. Like, so A and B, we're talking really about step one. Step or C is we're talking about step two. Okay. So being convinced of A, B, and C. So once we've read this, we have to be convinced. Like at this point, we have to understand. Like, okay, so yes, like I can't control my alcoholism. No human power can help me. Maybe I'm going to be open and willing that there could be something bigger than me that can help. Second step proposition. This is the C. Okay, so if I'm convinced of these things, which we were at step 3, okay, which is that we decided to turn our will and our life over to the care of God as we understood him. It says, okay, so first off, it says that we're at step 3. It says it right here that we're at step 3, but it says that again when we get to the third step prayer. Okay, so like at the top sentence of the third steps prayer, we are now at step 3. I want to just quickly call that out because that means that what is step 3 is bookcased in between this. Okay, so in between, like from what we're going to read to the third step prayer, that's all, it's all contained in here, right? Just what do we mean by that? And just what do we do? So this is all in the next 3 pages. This is going to tell us how to do this. And I struggled. I remember crying in a meeting at, early sobriety. And I was like, I just don't understand step 3. How can I turn my will and my life over to the care of God when, God is letting children starve in Africa and, innocent children being murdered. And I don't understand how I can turn my will and my life over to the care of anything bigger when that can happen. Right? How can I trust that that I will be okay? But the good news is it says right here, like, just what do we mean by that? And just what do we do? So we're going to break this into kind of 2 sections. This next part, we're going to talk about what do we mean when we talk about, why do we need to turn our will and our life over to the care of God as we understood him? Why does that even matter, right? Okay, so we'll jump in here. So the first requirement is that we be convinced that any life run on self-will can hardly be a success. So any life, any part of our life, okay? So whether it is our finances, our relationships, our jobs, any part of our life can hardly be a success. And I also, when I'm taking people through this book, when we get to step 3, I have them underline every time we mention the word self. Anytime there's the word self noted, right? Because when we look back, that's what this is, right? And so any life run on self-will can hardly be a success. On that basis, And so the basis is like an underlying basis or a principle, right? So that on the basis of living on self, we are almost always in collision with something or somebody, even though our motives are good. I think I explained this last week about how, I think it was like 6.5 years sober. And I felt like I was like just in this box, and it was like a ball was bouncing around, hitting every single area of my life. Like I was running on self-will, like I was in collision everywhere I looked. I was in collision with my relationship. I was in collision with my finances. I was in collision with my job. I was in collision with friendships. Like I was in collision with the AA, like, everywhere, so it's always like, that was a really good, like, I think it was a really good, for me, it was a really good time to just be like, oh, okay, I'm in collision everywhere I'm looking. The common denominator is me. Right. So I'm my life is being run on self-will, right? Even though our motives may be good, we can have delusional thinking. This is my plug for continuing to have a sponsor and continuing to use a sponsor, because my mind can justify things, right? Like I can go into things thinking like my motives are good, but I'm still trying to control an outcome, and I don't even maybe realize it. And so I continually, at least once a week, I talk to my sponsor, or Paige is my other buddy here, that it's like, hey, just need to run something by you, just like, so like, even though our motives are good, right? Like it's we have a little bit of a delusional mind. We can't really see clearly. But we're not unbiased, right? So okay, even though our motives are good, so most people try to live by self-propulsion. um okay, so think of this word self-propulsion. Think of a motorboat. Okay, like a little motorboat, it's run on a propeller. That's what, when it's running on the propeller, it is, that's what pushes it forward. Okay. Self propulsion. Like this is our little self will. That's what's powering us. That's what's pushing us forward in life. So most people try to live by self propulsion. We're relying on self to get us where we're going, or to get us just going, period. Right. Like the only way I'm going to be able to get anything that I want, that I think I want or I need, is I have to control and I have to manage it. My my husband is currently working in the basement. We have no door, so he can very likely hear it. I know he's just sitting there. He's not an alcoholic, and he's just probably loving this. And he's like, oh, I'm glad that Kristen has to be reminded of all this stuff, because I try to control him quite a bit. Like when I feel like things are out of control, he's the first one that I'm like, did you do this? Did you do that? Like, okay. Anyways, sorry, to continue on. So each person is like an actor who wants to run the whole show, is forever trying to arrange the lights, the ballet, the scenery, and the rest of the players in his own way. Um, if I actually was just listening to a speaker, and they were like, okay, so imagine that we're actors, okay? And George Clooney is in our play. All right. Imagine that, like, George Clooney's the star. He comes in, on stage, and the director is telling him what but then we're like, no, 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 George, sorry, Georgie boy, here, like, can you, George, it's gonna go better if you're over here. And then can I, like, I think everybody would be looking like, you guys are insane. What is it, like, no, get back into your place. Like, you are not the director. But that's what we have been like. We're sitting there trying to, if only this person will do that, if only this person will do that, then everything will be okay. Right. If his arrangements would only stay put, if only people would do as he wished, the show would be great. Again, this is delusion of self-will, right? This is the delusion that, like, if only everybody will do what I want them to do, then everything is going to be good. If only my husband will get the exact job that I think he needs to get, then everything's going to be okay. If only, my job will do this, if only, whatever that looks like, or if only my kids would do this, then everything will be okay. Everybody, including himself, would be pleased. Life would be wonderful. Well, in trying to make these arrangements, our actor may sometimes be quite virtuous. So sometimes we may be doing this because we think that this is the right thing for everybody else, right? We're doing this to make sure that everybody else is okay. And this is here where we're reading. This is a toolkit of self-will. So this is our little toolkit of things that we can, how does living on self-will? Well, here we go. Like, if you're wondering if you're doing this right. So he may be kind, considerate, patient, generous, even modest and self-sacrificing. When I first went through this, okay, this he may be kind and considerate. Somebody said people pleasing, right? But the reality is I think a lot of people, and we use a lot in AA, it's become a lot of like therapy terminology that's used in this, right? And so a lot of people are like, well, I'm a people pleaser. But the reality is that I am never doing it just to make you happy. Like that's people pleasing. There's another layer underneath that. I'm trying to get something out of it. If you're happy, then I'm okay. Then there's no friction. If you're happy, you're going to be doing as I wished. If you're happy, then so this people pleasing is like, I need you to like me, or I need you, like, I'm trying to get something from you, right? So, again, kind, considerate, patient, generous, even modest, and self sacrificing. And I want to call out this self sacrificing. I think this is very closely tied with expectations, right? I'm going to give up my time for you to help, but the next time I need a really big favor, I need a ride to the hospital, and you're not willing to help me, like, I'm a little bit resentful now, right? The next time you're not really willing, so this self-sacrificing, like, oh my gosh, of course I'm willing to do it for you. So again, even though our motives may be good, like, underneath, what are we trying to get out of it, right? So, on the other hand, he may be mean, egotistical, selfish, and dishonest. But as with most humans, he is more likely to have varied traits. So, we're going to, like, we're individual humans. We're going to have a mixture of these things. We're going to use these tools at different times in our lives. We're going to, in different situations. But again, these are, the tools that we kind of use to try and get our way, to try and get what we think we need. We are, because we think that we are the ones sitting on the golden throne of the director's chair, and we need to get off that throne. That is not our place. What usually happens, and this show doesn't come off very well, he begins to think life doesn't treat him right. Okay, so we're starting to get life isn't treating me right, like a little bit of self-pity. One thing I don't know, it blows my mind, in topic meetings, I've never once saw self-pity brought up in a topic meeting. And I would encourage you guys, if you guys have not thought about this, recognize how many times that self-pity is mentioned in this big book. Because I think I was about a year sober when somebody was like, oh, that sounds a little bit like self-pity. And I was like, what are you talking about? Like, how dare you say that to me? And then, and then I read it again and again and again in the book. And it was like, oh, that is a thing of self. That is, like, poor me, right? Life isn't treating me right. He decides to exert himself more. He becomes, on the next occasion, still more demanding or gracious, as the case may be. Still, the play does not suit him. Admitting he may be somewhat at fault, he is sure that other people are more to blame. I'm going to share an example of this because again, I saw this very clearly when sometimes examples in this like help me see where I'm doing this, so pretty early in sobriety at my home group. There's like the people that you see on a regular basis. There's one girl that just really wasn't nice to me. And she was kind of like friends with all the people I was friends with. She was kind of a nasty person, but I was just like, I felt like I needed her to like me. And so I remember sitting like there's like the comfy chairs on the side of the room, and like she'd come in and I'd be like, "Oh, do you want to sit in this chair?" Like, next to I see you want to talk to so and so. Here, you can sit here. I was actually going to go grab a coffee and go sit. Okay, so I am trying to get what I want, even though like thinking my motives are good. Like, was that a bad motive to give someone what is my motive underneath it? Right. Okay. Well, she still isn't really nice to me. So on the next occasion, like I decide to exert myself more, right? I become still more demanding or gracious, as the case may be. The next time I see her, oh, here, I made some cookies. Do you want one? How's your son doing? Really, I don't really give a shit about her son. I don't even like her as a person. Like, I'm sorry, but that's the honest truth. Why am I sitting here like trying to be more gracious, right? Because I'm trying to get something from her. Still the play does not suit him. So admitting I may be somewhat at fault, I'm sure that she's more to blame. Okay, so he becomes angry, indignant, and self-pitying. Again, self-pitying. We're talking that word, self-pity. But angry, again, I'm angry because I had expectations of others. I'm angry because I had an expectation that she should be treating me a different way based on how I was treating her. I had an expectation, and now that did not get met. I'm angry. I'm angry it did not go my way. Indignant, how dare she? And self-pitying, oh man, like poor me. What is his basic trouble? So that word basic is that underlying foundation, like the basic trouble. What is our underlying, the foundational trouble? What is the problem? The base of the problem. Is he not really a self-seeker, even when trying to be kind? Was I not really self-seeking, even when trying to be nice? Was I not really a self-seeking? Is what am I getting out of it? That's what the self-seeking is what am I getting out of it? They're selfish is I'm thinking about myself. Self-seeking is what am I trying to get? Okay. Is he not a victim of the delusion that he can wrest satisfaction and happiness out of this world if he only manages well? Okay, so this word victim, right? Like, we're a victim of the delusion. The delusion is the thinking, right? We've called this out a few times already. Like, we have this delusion in our heads that that things are going to go the way that we want them to go if we can control and manage it, right? This is the delusion, right? That we can wrest satisfaction. And the word rest, WREST, is like it's like wrestle, like take by force. Okay, so we're going to try and take by force. Like we have this delusion that we can get what we want if we forcefully, make it happen, right? Well, that's how we'll be happy. If only we manage well, if only we tell the right people to sit in the right spot, if only my husband, if only my husband would listen to me, if only my husband would apply for like the right jobs, if only he would do this, if only he would do that, like then everything would be okay. I know best. I'm on the golden throne. Get out of the way, George Clooney. You're blocking my light. Right? Um, is it not evident to all the rest of the players that these are the things he wants? So, I back to the girl that I would be like extra nice to. Like, when somebody is just like kissing your butt and you're just like, okay, I see it. No, like, and you're just like a little bit annoyed with them, and you don't really, I don't know if anybody has experienced that. And you're just like, okay, like I really don't want anything to do with you. Like that's right. Like people can see what we're doing. My sponsor in early sobriety told me, the healthy people in AA that are doing this program can see right through you, right? Like they understand this, right? Like and today, like I can see when people are doing those kinds of things as well. But this is now I sometimes it's harder for me to realize when I'm doing these things though too. So again, plug for long-term sponsorship. Or having relationships, friendships that you can kind of you're walking this thing together, right? Okay, so and do not his actions make each of them wish to retaliate, snatching all they can get out of the show. Okay, well, like we're just this next sentence, this is what this is saying. Is he not, even in his best moments, a producer of confusion rather than harmony? How is our play looking on stage? Like George Clooney is probably just like over, like huddled with his manager about talking about getting us fired, and like, the backup dancers are all pissed, and like, the director is probably throwing stuff at us, right? Like, have we created harmony or have we created confusion on the stage? And that's in our life. Like, whenever I am trying to live on self-will, like this, and this isn't just something I'm able to see as a result of time doing this, but when my little plans and designs, like by living by self-will, like it's never better than what God has planned ever, right? um I often say to people, like, I don't have all the pieces of the puzzle. I don't have, like, I see here. I don't see what God is doing around here. I see this. This is the only way I see possible to get to that I'm going to be okay. So I need to make sure there like in my realm of how things are going to work, there's no way anything, like I can't see any other possibility. So if God isn't going to take an action, then I need to do it. I need to make sure everything is okay. I need to make sure my family doesn't end up on the street. I need to make sure that we're, like the financially, security, all of this stuff. I need to make sure that we're okay. Our actor is self-centered, egocentric, as people like to call it nowadays. Okay, so this right here is this self-centered and egocentric. Like this is saying our ego and self are interchangeable, right? So we can the ego and self, like usually our self is it's our ego. um he is like the retired businessman who lolls in the Florida sunshine in the winter, complaining of the sad state of the nation, the minister who sighs over the sins of the 20th century, politicians and reformers who are sure all would be utopia if the rest of the world would only behave, the outlaw safecracker who thinks society has wronged him, and the alcoholic who has lost all and is locked up. Whatever our protestations, are not most of us concerned with ourselves, our resentments, oh, and here again, our self-pity, right? So how ourselves, like we're just walking around, every person in this world is just walking around thinking about themselves and how they're getting what they're getting or how they're not getting what they think they need. And we're just walking around thinking about ourselves or how that person is not meeting our needs or how that person, how dare they do that, or oh, poor me, this life isn't treating me right. So selfishness, self-centeredness, that we think is the root of our troubles. And I mean, I like this is and this is why I have, when I'm taking people through, I'm like underline all the word self, because right here, like when we get to this sentence where it says selfishness, self-centeredness, that is the root of our troubles. Like you hear people spout this off. Well, now we have tons of places to back that up. What do we mean by that? Well, okay, well, we talk all about how this self manifests in all of these ways, right? So this is the root of our troubles, driven by 100 forms of fear of not getting what I want, fear of not getting what I think I need, self-delusion. Again, like we've talked a lot about the delusion, right, in our mind. Self-seeking, trying to get other people to do what you want, like trying to get something out of it. Self-pity, poor me, the world doesn't treat me right. Driven by all of these things, we step on the toes of our fellows, the fellows of other human beings with beating hearts walking on this earth. We step on their toes and they retaliate. Sometimes, though, they hurt us seemingly without provocation. So sometimes some pretty shitty stuff happens, right? We invariably find that at some time in the past, we made decisions based on self, which later placed us in a position to be hurt. This, I think, like I don't know why last year was like the year that this was like my motto of life, like, and like I'd say this in every meeting, like, oh, I invariably find that at some time in the past I made decisions based on self, which later placed me in a position to be hurt. Or having the same conversation with sponsees. Okay, so what decision did you make on self which placed you in this position to be hurt? And what we're going to be doing in step 4 is looking at how we made these decisions based on self, which placed us in a position to be hurt, the resentments, the fears, right? So I've just been walking around this world, trying to, feel I never felt okay, right? I never felt I didn't understand this until I had some time in. And I remember hearing people talk about this in early sobriety about how they had always felt like this hole inside of them when they were younger and they just always had these problems. And, like, yeah, I did too. And it just like, so I have this hole, this spiritual hole in me. And so I'm walking around, if I will only be okay, if I can just make everything be okay. That we're not taught as a society to do anything different. We're not taught how to do that at all. This is this is like, okay, like I have to control and manage, or otherwise everything's gonna fall apart. Like, and it's still falling apart. So now I still have to do even more. And like, it's just this vicious cycle, right? So, when I came into Alcoholics Anonymous, I thought my problem was alcohol. And I was like, if I can just stop drinking, everything will be okay. I'm the person who is completely normal in every respect, except when it comes to the effect alcohol has upon me. And then I stopped drinking. And I was in this program doing these steps. And I realized that I'll get to this because we're going to talk. We're going to talk about this right here. But okay, I'm just going to continue on for a minute. So our troubles, we think. And who thinks this? Our founders, the people that were on the other side of the recovery. So our troubles, like we think these are the people that wrote this, that were like, this is the way out, right? They're saying, so our troubles are basically of our own making. Okay, that's like so our own making, not others, our own making. And this is actually a promise. And this is a really cool promise, because if it's of our, like, if it was of others making, then I would have to rely on others to fix it. If this is of our own making, then with God's help, maybe my heart can be fixed, like my soul, my insides. So, our troubles, okay, so they arise out of ourselves. The alcoholic is an extreme example of self-will run riot, though he usually doesn't think so. Again, he usually doesn't think so. We can't see it. We're delusional. There's that delusion again, right? But the self-will run riot. Okay, so I wanted to go through the steps again, like very early sobriety, like within my first year. And my sponsor was like, okay, well, this other girl who was my good friend at the time, she still is actually, like, she was like my maid of honor and at my wedding and everything. Anyways, she had asked my sponsor also to take her through the steps. So my sponsor was like, okay, you know what? Me and my sponsor are going to take you, we're going to just do like a 2-on-2. We're going to, dig in. And I was like, no, this is for me. I don't want anyone, like, this is personal for me, like going through the steps. I don't want to share this. And I mean, it was bad and I was nasty to her, right? Like, I was just like, I don't think you know what you're doing. Like, how dare you do that? Like, I am trusting you. And now you're gonna like break that trust. And she was like, you just need to trust me, do what I suggest, and trust me if you want what I have. And I was like, no, I know better. Like, I know. And and I remember I kept trying to convince her, like, no, this is wrong. And the way I went about it, like, I was mean, egotistical, I was kind and gentle. I was doing all the different kinds of manipulations, right? And it was just like, I felt like I again, like, I was hitting, it was that ball bouncing around in a box, and it was just chaos. And I just remember in a meeting I just broke down and I was like, I am self-will run riot. This is self-will run riot. I am trying to get what I want so badly because I don't trust another way. Right? So even though, like, again, so we're self-will run riot, though we usually don't think so. Again, we're usually in the delusion that we're not. Another plug for good long sponsorship or having friends that you talk to. Okay. Above everything, we alcoholics must be rid of this selfishness. Okay. Above everything, above everything that's a pretty like lofty statement, right? Like, it's not saying, above everything, we alcoholics just cannot pick up that first drink, although we do say that, but this is saying above everything, we alcoholics must, that word must. Okay. Again, they use soft language in this book. This is not where soft language is being used. This is a must. We must be rid of this selfishness. It repeats it. We must, or it kills us. exclamation point. Like this is Paige, isn't it like more expensive to use exclamation points when they did the book? No, the exclamation points are more expensive. So, okay, so I thought something was like okay. Anyways, but they're saying like this is like big. And I think we talked previously too about like where we beg of you, like was another instance where they use kind of this verbiage that is really like boom, right? Okay, God makes that possible. And there often seems no way of entirely getting rid of self without his aid. Okay, it can be, this can get so lost. This is probably one of the things that I've seen get lost the most in AA. Thinking that if only I change, then I will be rid of self. If only I do this, if only I do that, if only then I'm going to be rid of self. We just read that no human power could have relieved our alcoholism. No human power can take away our selfishness. We had to have God's help. Many of us had moral and philosophical convictions galore, but we could not live up to them, even though we would have liked to. Okay, so we can have a perfect way of life, but we can know all the things, right? So again, this is we can do a step 4. We can know all of this stuff. But if we are not consistently turning over to God, our hearts are not going to change, right? This is the way of getting rid of self is asking him to get rid of it, right? Like even though so we can't live up to those things, like those moral and philosophical convictions galore, like even though we would have liked to, neither could we reduce our self-centeredness much by wishing or trying on our own power. We had to have God's help. We have to have God's help because we have a failure of self-will. Okay. We just read about what that failure of self-will looks like. We just talked about this. So we have a really good example of, okay, so remember at the beginning of this, when it's at that part where it says, being convinced of A, B, and C. Like we were at step 3, which is that we decided to turn our will and our life over to God as we understood him. Just what do we mean by that? And just what do we do? So we just talked about what do we mean by that? Why do we need to do that? Why does it even matter? Why does even bringing God into this matter? Okay. So now we're going to talk about what do we do? How do we do this? Okay, so this is the how and why of it. Number 1, first of all, we had to quit playing God. Why? Because it didn't work. We just saw this, right? Because us sitting on our golden throne has George Clooney really pissed off, and like the backup dancers are probably in a brawl right now, and like we have created a mess of chaos, right? So we have to quit playing God because it's not working. We look at our lives up to this point. Do you feel conflict in relationships? Do you feel conflict in your finances? Do you feel conflict in your friendships? Do you feel conflict in your job or in your with your children, in whatever capacity? Like, are you hitting a wall? Is there any walls being hit? Right? Are you in a box that the ball is bouncing around the sides? Okay, so it didn't work. So next, we decided that hereafter in this drama of life, God was going to be our director. All right, we're going to get off our golden throne because it's not ours. It doesn't fit. We don't fit in the seat anyways, right? He is the principal. We are his agents. Agents act on behalf of the principals in a legal way, right? So, and I think that's in like, is that page insurance reference? If I ever something, yeah. Okay. So principals, principals run the thing. The agents are the ones that act on behalf of. So we are God's agents. He is the Father and we are his children. Most good ideas are simple. And this concept was the keystone of the new and triumphant arch through which we passed to freedom. The keystone, we again, construction reference. So, like, an arch, we're looking at an arch. The keystone is that center piece that holds the arch together, right? This is the keystone that's going to hold it together. That we're going to walk through to freedom. And that's freedom from self. We get freedom from self. Perfect example, Paige. Thank you. So this keystone right there is that God is going to be our director. Okay. Walk through that every day. Well, picture that visually. Walk through. I'm going to walk through this arch and God is going to be my director when I walk through it. Okay, so when we sincerely took such a position, okay, all sorts of remarkable things followed. So when we truly wanted this thing, when we're like, okay, I see my way is not working. I'm going to take the position that God is in charge. That's the position they're asking us to take. So when we sincerely took this position, all sorts of remarkable things followed. We had a new employer. Being all powerful, he provided what we needed if we kept close to him and performed his work well. Okay, so he provided what we needed, not what I want, not what I think I need, not what, but what I need. Not, yeah, like I told you guys, like, I was laid off like 2 months ago, and I'm like, that's not what I needed. God, I needed my job financially, like, to be okay. Like, I did not need that, but no, he's providing exactly what I need, not what I want, not what I think I need. If, okay, he will do that if we do these things, if we kept close to him. One, prayer, meditation, continuing through the rest of the steps, and performed his work well on a daily basis. How can I serve thee? Thy will be done, not mine. How can I be of service to those about me? How can I, what can I give rather than what can I get? Because yeah, I walked around this world for a long time thinking about what can I get. I walk around on a daily basis thinking, what can I get? I have to, this is a daily thing that I have to do daily. But yeah. So established on such a footing, again, footing is the basis. So established on this basis, we became less and less interested in ourselves, our little plans and designs. Okay, it says less and less. It doesn't say it goes away. We're going to be less and less. It doesn't say we are going to become these completely altruistic, selfless people that are like, because we are fallible human beings. So less and less we'll be interested in ourselves. So we're going to get better at that. At trying to get things our way. And just back to, like, sorry, I'm going to back up here. When we just talked about if we kept close to him and performed his work well. Well, we can't stay close to God until we become close to God. So we need to get close to God, which is why we need to do 4 to 9 so that we can clear away the things that are blocking us from God. So we can get close to God, and then we can stay close to God. Then we can keep close to Him by continuing this thing, right? But at the beginning, we need to clear away all of this stuff that is blocking us. Okay, so more and more we became interested in seeing what we could contribute to life. Again, not what can we get. I really liked this. I read in a book once, like this guy was talking about how like he would go into conferences and he would that would be like the cocktail hour and he would just be like, oh, nobody's talking to me. I'm just going to go eat my little quick hors d'oeuvres and everybody's in their little groups and like, I'm just going to like have my little drink and then I'm going to leave. Right. Like walking into places being like, okay, so like, what am I going to get out of it? What can people give? Like, are people going to come up to me? Are they going to do this? And I heard him say that there was a complete shift when he started walking into the room and looking for the person that looked lonely and uncomfortable and walked over to them. What can I give rather than what can I get? And I think that that's such a beautiful way to look at life. Like, what can I give? Like on a daily basis, have I made today better? Like in this moment, am I making it better for people and for those around me? Or am I like, like what am I giving? Yeah. What am I giving? Okay. So okay, as we felt new power, that power is God, flow in, right? We're feeling Him in us as we enjoyed peace of mind, as we discovered we could face life successfully, as we became conscious of His presence. Thinking conscious is in our mind. Okay, we're thinking not just like, okay, now I'm going to just not think about God today, right? Like as we became conscious, like conscious knowing of His presence, we began to lose our fear of today, tomorrow, or the hereafter. We began. This is the beginning. It doesn't happen here. If it did, we wouldn't need anything else. That would be done. This is the beginning. We began to lose our fear of today, tomorrow, and hereafter. We were reborn. We were now at step 3. So, okay, now I have enough info on how self is my problem. So remember, like I said, this is bookends, right? We just read. This is inside. This is what our problem is. This is the information I needed to see that self is my problem. Okay. So now we're at step 3 and we're ready to do step 3 because we've seen how self manifests and how we can't afford to do this, right? So many of us say to our maker as we understood him, and this is the prayer, God, this is the 3rd step prayer, God, I offer myself to thee. Myself, all of me, not part of me, not my alcoholism or my drugs or anything. I offer myself, me, all of me to thee. Why? To build with me and do with me as thou wilt. So why do I offer myself to God? So that he can build with me and do with me as he will. Relieve me of the bondage of self. Why? So that I may better do thy will. So take away that bondage of self, not so that I have freedom to just go do what I want to do, but that I may better be an agent of God, that I may better be of service. Take away my difficulties. Why? that victory over them may bear witness to those I would help of thy power, thy love, and thy way of life. I am telling you this, take away my difficulties. Nothing has been taken away just for my purpose. My sponsees hate me saying it, but I say it all the time. This will be used to help someone else. Like my greatest trials have always been used to help someone else. Always, always. I'm talking about the things that you're like, no one else could probably experience that. And inevitably, so I find somebody that does, right? Um, okay, so may I do thy will always. We thought well before taking this step, making sure we were ready, that we could at last abandon ourselves. So getting like abandon, like throw ourselves utterly to God. This is the second surrender. This is the surrender, like the first surrender is around the alcohol or drugs or whatever the issue is, right? That this is the surrender that we've talked about in 1 and 2, right? This is the second surrender that we need, the surrender of self. Okay, I surrendered my problem. Now I'm surrendering myself. That's what step 3 is. Um, I'll quickly read this next paragraph because we are at time. So, we found it very desirable to take this spiritual step with an understanding person, such as our wife, best friend, or spiritual advisor. But it is better to meet God alone than with one who might misunderstand. The wording was, of course, quite optional, so long as we expressed the idea, voicing it without reservation. It can be in your own words. It doesn't have to be these exact words. This is a great template. This is what the gist of what we want to do, right? But this was only a beginning, though if honestly and humbly made, an effect, sometimes a very great one, was felt at once. Next, we launched on a course of vigorous action. So immediately following step 3, you're going to do step 4, which will continue next week. That this next does mean immediately. We don't want to take time going in between these because we're at this point. We've surrendered self. Now we need to take the action. So thank you guys so much. What an incredible blessing this was for me to do this. Like I am so filled up. I like of all the times in my life that I could have needed this, this was exactly what I needed when I needed it. So thank you for being here. And I hope that that made sense.